Hi, my name is Mike Saunders and this is The Brave Narrative. We've been discussing over the last 2 episodes, we've been discussing this idea and this tension that exists between extroverts and introverts within the workplace. And we've been down a bit of a path, but today we want to talk about introverts and the growth path for introverts. Now, complete disclaimer up front, what I'm going to share with you today is not my information. It was written in a book called The Introverted Leader, Building Your Quiet Strength. And the author, Jennifer, has highlighted a number of areas where introverts really need to consider growth paths within. And the first one is you need to talk about your performance. As introverts, you have and we have a tendency to want the work to speak for itself. And because of that, we don't talk about performance. We don't talk about these different things. And so as introverts, we need to bear in mind that we primarily work in an extroverted culture, and that because of that, we have to spend more time communicating the value of the work that we do rather than just waiting for the work to speak for itself. The second thing is that you need to look at planning your solitary time quite carefully. So an example of this is that inside business, you can't be in solitary time all the time. You need to manage your meetings effectively. And I've seen, especially in our business, the introverts really struggle with how to be able to manage that extroverted demand that's on their business and their solitary time. And there's a balance that needs to be brought into play, but you need to find ways to create that solitary time in your day-to-day environment that isn't detrimental to your ability to be able to stay connected within the organization so that you don't become an isolated icon. The next thing you need to be aware of is that introverts have a tendency to feel like they're aloof, especially if I use the example of meetings. As introverts, you're sitting in that meeting, you're listening to everything that's going on, you're engaged in the conversation because you're primarily listening to everything that's happening, you're digesting what's taking place, and often as an introvert, you will leave the meeting, digest the information, and then come back with value. But bear in mind that extroverts in that same room will reflect on your engagement in that meeting as one of being aloof. And so bear that in mind, that as you work with different leaders, you work with different people, that you may be coming across as disinterested and disengaged. And so make sure that the people in the meeting in this type of example know that you're engaged in the conversation, know that you're interested, and that you will be feeding back. Don't just, again, let the work assume it's going to show itself. Play to your listening strength. Again, I refer back to my good business partner, Steve Gardner, and myself. He had a beautiful way of being able to distill the complexities that came out of meetings into very simplistic forms. And this is something that I find introverts phenomenal at, is cutting through the clutter and really understanding what is taking place in the environment. And so play to that listening strength. Use it to distill and to direct. But just again, bear in mind that aloofness that might come ahead. And finally, plan ahead. While the extrovert needs to plan ahead in their meetings so that they don't go all over the place and waste everybody's time, the introvert needs to plan ahead so that they can contribute to the conversation in the meeting, which is where the majority of people are hoping you will contribute. And so meetings are places where people hope to propel things forward. And so very often you need to make sure as an introvert that you have prepared and you come with something to put on the table. Whereas extroverts will put stuff on the table on the fly. That's not your strength. So you'll need to plan ahead for those reasons.